Tanya did not understand dividend income until the day her father retired and kept checking the mailbox like it owed him an apology. He had worked 39 years, missed more dinners than he admitted, and still looked nervous every time a bill arrived with a window envelope. The strange part was that he had savings, he had a pension, he was not broke. But he had spent his whole life earning money through effort, and now that the effort had stopped, every expense felt personal. If you like calm, honest investing stories with real numbers and no fake promises, subscribe to the channel before we go deeper. Tanya went home that night and asked a question she had avoided for years. How much money would need to be invested before bills stopped depending completely on her labor? The answer was not emotional, it was mathematical. At a 4% dividend yield, every $100,000 invested could create about $4,000 a year in dividend income. $4,000 sounded small until she placed it next to real life. Her car insurance, phone bill, and internet together were almost exactly that number. That was when the idea became clear. She did not need to become rich first. She needed to make one piece of her life independent from her paycheck. The first target was not retirement. It was not quitting her job. It was not a beach house or some perfect morning with coffee and no responsibilities. The first target was simple: build enough invested money so one ordinary bill could no longer scare her. Tanya started with the bill that felt smallest, because small was the only thing that did not scare her away. Her internet bill was $75 a month, $900 a year. At a 4% yield, she would need about $22,500 invested to cover it. That number made her uncomfortable. She had spent years treating $75 like background noise, but now it looked like a piece of freedom with a price tag attached. Then she calculated her car insurance, then her groceries, then the amount she spent on takeout when she was too tired to cook after work. Every expense became more honest when she asked how much invested money would be needed to pay for it forever. This did not make Tanya cheap. It made her awake. She still bought coffee sometimes. She still saw friends. She still went out for dinner when the dinner meant something. But she stopped letting tiredness make every decision for her. The first month she invested, nothing impressive happened. No dramatic account balance, no big dividend, no sudden feeling that her future had been fixed. Comment "Notes" below and check the pinned comment. I'll leave a simple dividend numbers sheet there, so you can calculate what your own bills would require. But something did change. For the first time, Tanya had a target that was not based on wishing, hoping, or waiting for life to get easier. By the 6th month, Tanya had stopped checking her portfolio every day, not because she cared less, but because she finally understood that the account was not supposed to entertain her. It was supposed to become useful. That was a strange lesson, because almost everything online made money feel urgent. Every headline wanted her to panic. Every influencer had a stock, a strategy, a warning, or a shortcut. Dividends were different. They did not care if she was excited. They did not care if she felt behind. They just arrived when the fund paid them, quietly, almost rudely calm. One Friday, her coworkers started talking about a stock that paid a huge dividend yield. One of them said it was almost 12%, and the room suddenly became interested. Tanya felt the pull immediately. She imagined reaching her internet bill goal faster, then her car insurance, then groceries. A higher yield made the whole future look closer. But when she looked at the stock later, the price had been falling for years. The company was borrowing too much. Earnings looked weak, and the dividend seemed less like income and more like bait. That was the day she learned an important rule. A high dividend yield is not always a gift. Sometimes it is the market warning you that the floor underneath the income may be cracking. She stayed with the boring approach: broad funds, reasonable yield, reinvested dividends, automatic contributions, nothing impressive enough to brag about, but strong enough to repeat. And slowly, the plan became less about getting rich and more about becoming harder to scare. By the end of the second year, Tanya's portfolio was not large enough to change her life, but it was large enough to change her attention. She started noticing the difference between purchases that added something real and purchases that only softened a bad mood for a few hours. A dinner with her father was worth it. A random shopping cart at midnight because she felt behind was not. That was the quiet shift. Dividend investing did not make her obsessed with money. It made her more honest about what money was doing. Her internet bill target became a symbol. Every time she invested, she imagined one small monthly bill losing its grip on her paycheck. Think about it like removing weight from a backpack. One item does not feel dramatic. But after enough weight comes out, your whole body walks differently. Dividends work the same way. One payment will not rescue you. 1 year may not impress you. But repeated long enough, they begin to remove pressure from places you forgot were heavy. The mistake is waiting for the final number before respecting the early progress. Comment notes below if you want the dividend numbers sheet. I'll pin it in the comments so you can calculate your first bill target and see the portfolio number behind it. The practical move is to stop making dividend freedom abstract. Pick one bill, find its yearly cost, divide it by a realistic yield, and make that your first target. Tanya's next step was simple enough to feel almost boring. She wrote down the yearly cost of one bill, divided it by a reasonable dividend yield, and turned that number into her first portfolio target. Then she automated the habit, because if she waited until she felt motivated, the money would already be gone by the time motivation arrived. Payday came in, a piece went to bills, a piece went to groceries, a piece went to the future before the present could spend it out of stress. She also learned to respect risk. A dividend was not useful just because it was high. It had to be supported by something real underneath it, or it was just a trap wearing the costume of income. That was the boring truth she started to trust. Reasonable yield, consistent investing, reinvested payments, lower lifestyle pressure, no fake shortcuts. The deeper lesson is that the amount you need invested to live off dividends is not only about the stock market. It is about the life you are asking your portfolio to carry. Tanya did not become free in one dramatic moment. She became less trapped every time $1 stopped depending on her exhaustion. So look at your own life and ask which bill still has too much power over your mood. Which expense keeps showing up every month, even though it no longer gives you anything back? Comment notes below and check the pinned comment. I'll leave the dividend numbers sheet there so you can calculate your first bill target and see what your own portfolio would need to produce. The first step toward living off dividends is not replacing your whole paycheck. It is proving to yourself that your money can learn to work when you are no longer in the room.